I need to talk about this movie. Now, I'm currently working on another video, or have another video in mind, about Parasite, which is one of my favorite movies of all time, which shouldn't take that long. And I know that I mostly talk about music, but I am a really big movie guy, or I like movies a lot. And for a long time now, I've been meaning to watch a movie called Persona, released in 1996 by Ingmar Bergman. And recently, I wanted to watch a couple movies and relax, because I got a bit stressed out mentally. So I decided to watch it. But first, I watched Bong Joon-ho's first movie, Barking Dogs Never Bite, released in the year 2000. And I liked it. There were a couple of things that threw me off, but a solid 8 out of 10 for me. But that's not the thing. But considering how that movie is regarded as his worst movie, even though it's kind of good, definitely watch more of his stuff. Maybe Parasite, so you can be ready for a video about that. Anyway, then later I watched Persona from 1996, directed by Ingmar Bergman. Or in other words, I just watched it. And it's probably one of the best movies I've seen so far, ever. I'll split this video into two parts, one where I explain the story and one where I go a bit deeper and explain like the deeper things, because this movie is like the Mount Everest of cinema. It's a big fucking challenge. Persona is about a 25-year-old engaged young nurse called Alma, and she is put in charge of a woman called Elisabeth Vogler. She's an actress who looks healthy in every way except for the fact that she doesn't talk. As they start spending more time together, even though Elisabeth still has her mouth shut, Alma speaks to Elisabeth for hours, constantly, even though she doesn't get any response. Alma sort of starts to take her mask off and reveal her secrets to Elisabeth, who seems sympathetic, and then Alma notices that her own personality is being submerged into Elisabeth's persona. Simple as that. Though it is presented in a haunting and captivating way that sits in your head for days, months, years, or maybe your whole life, as this movie is probably the only movie that have captured someone's emotion, in my opinion, in such a symbolic yet absurd way. So you start the movie thinking, yeah, old Swedish movie, hell yeah, rock and roll. And then you just hear this loud noise reminiscent of a signal sound or a siren. It gets louder and louder, and then boom! A projector begins screening a series of images, and Ingmar shows us, the audience, that the movie has started. Not to act all childish, but there's one scene where an erect penis abruptly gets shown on screen for like 5 milliseconds with a little... And when I saw that, I started laughing, and kind of still do, but I have some thoughts about the PP later, but I'll talk about that, of course, later. The projector shows us all these images, including a crucifixion, a spider, and the killing of a lamb. And then a boy wakes up in a hospital, or it looks like it. He sees a large screen with a blurry image of two women. One of the women looks like Alma, and the other looks like Elisabeth, foreshadowing the submerging. Later in the movie, after Alma introduces herself, Elisabeth watches television alone and is distressed by the images of a man burning himself during the Vietnam War. After that, Alma reads her letter from Elisabeth's husband that contains a photo of their son that may be the one we see in the intro, but then Elisabeth tears the photograph up. After a while, the doctor speculates that Elisabeth may recover better in a small or big, depends on the size you like, cottage by the sea, and sends her there with sister Alma. At the cottage, Alma tells Elisabeth that no one has ever really listened to her before, and talks about her fiance Carl Hendrik and her first affair, and tells a story of how, while she was already in a relationship with him, she sunbathed in the nude with Katrina, who was a woman she had just met, and then how two young boys appeared and they all had a giant orgy. However, Alma became pregnant, had an abortion, but she still continues to this day, however, to feel guilt. Alma later drives to town to mail some letters and notices that Elisabeth's is not sealed, so she reads it. The letter says that Elisabeth is studying Alma and mentions her orgy and abortion, and Alma gets furious. Not fast, furious. Alma then accuses Elisabeth of using her for some purpose. They start fighting, and Alma threatens to scald Elisabeth with boiling water and stops when Elisabeth begs her not to. And this is the first time Alma is certain that Elisabeth has spoken since they met, though she thought Elisabeth previously whispered to her when Alma was half asleep. Later, however, Alma tells her that she knows Elisabeth is a terrible person, and when Elisabeth runs off, Alma chases her and begs for forgiveness. Later, Elisabeth lays in her bed and looks at the famous photograph of Jews arrested in the Warsaw Ghetto from the Stroop reports, with Ingmar zooming in various parts of the photo, mainly capturing the hands. The little boy zoomed in on may be a hint to the little boy in the start of the movie that may be Elisabeth's son, but then again, we don't quite know. One night, Alma hears a man outside calling for Elisabeth, which turns out to allegedly be Elisabeth's husband. husband. However, he calls Alma Elizabeth, and though the nurse tells him he is mistaken, they have sex. That's a pretty shitty move, so Alma then regrets it. Alma later meets with Elizabeth to talk about why Elizabeth tore up the photo of her son, and then Alma tells so much of Elizabeth's story that she wanted the only thing she did not have: motherhood, and then became pregnant. Regretting her decision, Elizabeth attempted then a failed self-induced abortion and gave birth to a boy who she dislikes a lot, but her son craves her love. Alma then ends the story in distress, asserting her identity and denying that she is Elizabeth. She later gently persuades Elizabeth to say the word nothing, and then leaves the cottage as a crew films her, and credits. I'm just as confused as you are. But after reading a bit on the internet and, you know, kind of coming to my senses in my own head, this movie is deeper than you could imagine. So, the deeper analysis. The movie begins, of course, in the most experimental manner one could imagine. The opening scene showing the imagery of a projector lamp thingy bringing visual images to life, such as scenes from earliest days of cinema, which gives us an understanding that Ingmar aims to return to the purest roots of cinema, and in doing so intends to imply the psychological toll that actors, in this case Elizabeth, had to undergo during filmmaking. And then there's the erect penis. Now the penis in my eye may be like a showing of the start of life, as this movie begins with hinting at us viewers that this is the start of cinema, sort of like the penis had sex with the projector looking thing and made cinema. That sounds weird and doesn't make sense, but that's how I interpret it. The sequence also involves the imagery of possibly Elizabeth's boy, who uses his hands to caress an image of his mother in his bid to understand her, even though it is submerged with Alma. This might be that the boy has rarely seen his mother, that he starts to question if she is real or just a speck in his imagination. Elizabeth is clearly an established actor, of course. However, she does not resort to violence to calm her fear and frustration, which stems from her crumbled marriage and of course an unwanted child. Her torments are epitomized in a twilight sequence where Alma turns on a music player for Elizabeth and leaves the room. The POV shot which follows next captures her inner anxieties, which she can allay through music, sort of like a brief and sweet lullaby which soothes her heart and mind. Kinda like me laying in my bed listening to Blonde by Frank Ocean. Now, I don't really need to explain everything again, but those two parts were the most important in my opinion so far, because even though I kinda spoiled the whole movie, I still want you to watch it. Now, I mentioned the hands. The hands are a motive used throughout the whole movie, like the whole movie. For me, this means that we can't really touch the things that have happened in cinema or in history. We just see it. For example, this movie. I've been left with so many emotions, but I can't grasp them, or I can't take my hand out and get it out. Emotions have to be spilled. I have to say something instead of trying to suck someone's blood to get it out of me. Hinting to sucking blood earlier. That may be a hint to this. I need Jesus fucking Christ this movie. Now, I found some explanations on the internet that I really want to read, as they are really interesting. The characters of Alma and Elizabeth are two separate people who exist through doubling by sharing dramatic events. Alma and Elizabeth are haunted by the conditions of humanity. The story about Alma and Katarina having sex on the beach is painting a picture of excitement and pleasure in otherwise a dark world. The course of the film shows them coming apart and then being like each other because they share a deep bond. Elizabeth's husband becomes Elizabeth, while Elizabeth becomes like Alma, realizing the pain and horrors of life. Also, it shows a reflective nature of cinema, with the opening and closing shots of the film as a voyeurism into others' lives, whether happy or tragic. The film was just a reflection of Alma with her subconscious. She talked about her life expecting something from her subconscious to say. Both Elizabeth and Alma wanted to know each other better. That's why Elizabeth was studying Alma, and that's why Alma couldn't help reading Elizabeth's letter. There was sort of a connection. Now, before I end this video, what's with the war photo? Well, in my opinion, and in my eyes, this is what it means to me. Elizabeth is looking at the photo as she can't even imagine how that was real and actually happened, as she has been so distracted from reality by playing her roles and gets easily shocked when noticing her surroundings. And of course, we see the hands, referring to what I said earlier. All in all, this movie, holy shit. Thank you all for watching this video. I am recording this at 00:39, which is basically midnight. And thank you all for the tremendous support over the past month or so. It's insane. I'm gonna be posting mostly media things where I talk about games, movies, music, literally anything in the media. So if you like that, subscribe, turn on the notifications, like this video, leave a comment, share with your friends, and I'll see you later.